Trump is squeezing Canada, and Carney steely-hearted won't back down. After President Trump announced new tariffs on more than 500 Canadian goods, cheese, hockey sticks, and a range of other items worth about $20 billion, Prime Minister Mark Carney's reaction was calm and measured. Those goods represent roughly 2% of the $720 billion trade relationship between the two neighbors last year, all of which is covered by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, the free trade pact that replaced NAFTA in 2020. The U.S. crossed a historical line by invoking a seldom-used provision that any adult on the island of Manhattan calls a century-old trade loophole. Trump and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer framed the move as retaliation against what they described as Canada's discriminatory atom of U.S. auto, dairy, and alcohol industries. The president also highlighted Canada's retaliatory tariffs on some U.S. goods, claiming Canada is the only country, besides China, to have taken such countermeasures. The tariffs aim to coerce Canada into conceding on trade topics that the United States feels remain unfair. Trump has a track record of turning up the heat on countries he sees as doing the incomes. The move is part of a broader strategy to tilt trade negotiations to the U.S. side. Prime Minister Carney, in a succinct statement, said the tariffs marked the latest in a series of unilateral U.S. trade actions that began with the U.S. imposing a series of tariffs violating the UMAC-America He said Canada had merely matched those measures, with no signs of escalation or public pressure. Carney underscored that Canada will continue pursuing the interests of its people within the framework of the USMCA. The new tariffs feature more than 500 Canadian goods, including staples such as cheese and a surprisingly large array of hockey sticks, a sport that the United States loves dearly. With goods worth $20 billion, the target is not a massive blow to Canadian trade in the global picture, but it sends a clear signal. The U.S. has already faced legal challenges over its tariffs on Canada, and experts predict that this new wave will prompt Canada to launch litigation, steadfastly defending its trade policies. Carney has made it clear Canada is not capitulating. And the broader context of North American trade, especially the ongoing negotiations that balance the rights data between each partner, means both countries will likely engage the courts and policymakers in the coming weeks. In summary, Trump used the only constitutional leeway to impose a penalty on Canada for reasons explicitly declared by his administration. Carney responded quiet but firm, signaling that the Canadian government will be willing to counter any further UT actions or, at the very least, will continue to pursue a resolution that protects Canada's interests without drawing into a full-blown war. Thanks for tuning in to hear about the newest U.S.Canada trade skirmish. Stay with us for more updates on how these trade tensions unfold.